theme of this Sunday in the book of Genesis with Abraham and in Jesus going to visit two of his friends, actually three of his friends, but only two are named. The two women, Martha and Mary. And what was Martha and Mary's brother's name? Lazarus. Okay. Is it better to react or to respond to a person or a situation? Respond. Everybody in agreement? Everybody on board with that? Okay. Why? Because when we react, we fight fire with fire. When we respond, that literally means that we take a step back and create space. Even if someone is coming at us with a lot of anger, or a lot of bitterness, or a lot of resentment, it's about this idea of, you know, someone says something and you're in the other room and you start muttering something. Can't he do anything for himself? Or you, just the way, the sound and the tone can really get you aggravated and frustrated. Yes or no? We've all had that common experience. Reacting is when we fight fire with fire. Responding is when we fight fire with water. What a world of difference, right? You try to take out the fire of the other person. Hospitality, real hospitality, takes time. It cannot be rushed. And we live in a world of unbelievable, hectic pace. Do you know what the definition of being frantic is? Just pass these around so everybody can at least see them and hold them. What's the definition of being frantic? It's when we have too much to do and not enough time to do it. Anybody here ever have a panic attack? Boy, this is a well-balanced PowerShot. Anybody here ever have an anxiety attack? Oh, now we're starting to warm up. But by the way, my principle of new evangelization and preaching is I hear and I forget. I see, you see, and I remember. I do and I understand. So if we do the readings together, we will come with an understanding. And not by the time we get done the creed, forget everything that I said. So that's why I like this interaction. And I think it's important. Hospitality involves giving our best to our guests. And that, again, cannot be rushed. Now, how many here, if they heard a knock on the door and opened the door and Mary opened the door and saw Jesus and welcomed him, but on the side of the house was Jesus' 12 apostles. And they all start traipsing into the house. Now, Martha has to feed Jesus, and the 12, that's 13. His sister Mary, 14, and we don't know if Lazarus was home or not. That's 15 people and herself. Anybody here get a little bit panicky and frantic when it was an unplanned and unexpected visit? I mean, it would be tough enough if it was planned and expected, but it's unplanned and unexpected. seriously. She welcomes Jesus. And then her mind immediately diverts to who's going to set the table? Who's going to cut the carrots? Who's going to peel the potatoes? How am I going to get this meal together? And then she notices her sister Mary sitting at the feet of Jesus, listening to him. So what does she do? She doesn't go to Mary first. She's pretty clever. She goes to Jesus and tries to get him in the middle of this sibling rivalry. Understand what I mean? Sibling rivalry? Okay? And in the sibling rivalry, Jesus doesn't react. He responds. And his response can be somewhat confusing and challenging. What did Jesus respond when Mary, in a state of frenetic activity, said, Jesus, tell my sister to get in the kitchen and help me? And what does Jesus respond? Mary is doing the better part. The one thing necessary. Well, boy, Martha really gets the short end of that stick, doesn't she? Here she is trying to show hospitality, but the problem is she wasn't giving her time to Jesus. Her mind was all about worrying about the details. Now, details are important. I'm not denying that. But if Jesus were to walk in your home, would you sit down and spend time with him? Or would you go rushing around? I visited my cousins in Ireland years ago, and way before cell phones. And I wrote a letter telling them I was coming. They lived in Donegal. And my mother was with me, my 2 aunts and their husbands, a priest friend, 3 aunts and their husbands, and a priest friend. So 2 carloads of Yanks. So my cousin Teresa answers the door, and I identify myself. I was ordained a priest then. I'm Father Tom Heron, I'm your cousin. And she says, hold on a second, Father. And she goes in and announces to everybody, we got 2 carloads of Yanks out there and they want to come in for some tea. What are we going to do? But they finally were able to gather together and get it done. When I was in 5th grade, Sister Ann Martin used to always say, Master Heron. Now, I thought that was a compliment to be called Master. I found out later, by the tone of her voice, that she wasn't pleased with my behavior. Master Heron, sit up and pay attention! And I continued to not follow that rule, that guideline, and she had to get my older sister to come down, because Sister Ann Martin didn't trust I would go home and tell my mother that I was a pain in her neck. I was too busy about many things. You know, I think today they call that attention deficit disorder. I'm thankful they didn't have that title back when I was in 5th grade, that's for sure. Okay? So today's theme is hospitality, humility, both feet on the ground, hilarity, taking ourselves lightly, lightheartedly, hospitality, making everybody feel at home and feel welcome, and not have to do a soft shoe or perform or do that. You know people who are hospitality. The Samaritan showed not only compassion and mercy, but hospitality to the man in the ditch last week. These are the 3 stepping stones to holiness, and we're all called to be men and women of holiness. we entered into communion with Jesus sitting at his feet. We're going to enter into Holy Communion when we come up to the Eucharist. Do we know what we're doing? Are we paying attention to receiving the greatest gift in the world, the risen Lord? If people knew that it was the greatest gift in the world that you could receive, there wouldn't be an empty seat in this church. Then we can celebrate. Then you can finally get the meal together and put it all together and go and sit at the table. We need spousal prayer is the unskippable step. It means, like St. Matthew said in his gospel, go to your room, close the door, kick off your shoes, and just listen to the Lord like Mary did. Do it 2 times a day. Father, I don't have enough time to pray. But if you spend 2 minutes a day in spousal prayer at the beginning and the end, on your own you're going to start to increase that, and you'll still get everything done in the middle. But we don't think that way. It's counterintuitive. And then occupational prayer will be done with lack of worry, lack of fear, lack of anxiety. What's occupational prayer? Zorba the Greek said it best. He said this, what am I doing now, Zorba? I'm sweeping the floor. Well, sweep that floor like it's never been swept before. What am I doing now, Zorba? I'm eating a peach. Well, contemplate the peach. Be at one with the peach and enjoy every bite and savor and all the juices of a fresh peach. What am I doing now, Zorba? I'm kissing a woman. Well, kiss that woman like she's never been kissed before. That's being all there. That's paying attention. We need to do that in spousal prayer and in occupational prayer. The first unskippable step of the spiritual life is to pay attention to the way in which God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit want to break into our lives every moment of every day and pour out abundant grace. Now, how many can say, since you woke up this morning, can you list 5 to 10 instances of God's grace? Oh no, I just got a shower, dressed, and drove over to church. Well, I think God in his generosity had been trying to communicate to you from the very first moment you woke up. I have this prayer in the back of my pocket. Imagine as soon as you wake up, Nick, Jesus says this. Nick, I love you. Nick, I forgive you. Nick, I heal you and uplift you. I made you in my image after my likeness, and you are very good. You are wonderfully made and profoundly loved. Now, would that help you live the day a little bit more contemplatively and not compulsively? Yes or no? Jesus says that to every one of us the moment we open our eyes. He says it to us before we fall asleep at night, and he says it to us countless times during the day. We need to have ears to hear, eyes to see, and a heart to understand what hospitality means in a world riddled with hostility.